More than half the ballots for this election have already been cast in what is expected to be a photo finish in a couple of battleground states. And more, let's bring in Geoff Pallay, editor-in-chief of Ballotpedia, to discuss voter turnout and emerging trends. Geoff, good to have you on the show. Early voting in this election has already surpassed 2016 and 2020 numbers. Let's talk more about that and what is driving early voter turnout. And are these numbers what you expected?
Yeah, good evening, Tracy, and thanks for having me on the show. Yeah, early voting saw certainly a huge uptick in 2020, which none of us were surprised by with COVID and with the policies that were put forth by states. But it's really hung around this cycle. So people kind of forget in 2000 the number of early votes was just 14% of total votes. We're probably looking at like we'll probably eclipse 50% of the overall vote will have come in early, depending, of course, on how many people show up tomorrow. So yeah, there's a lot more people that are voting early, and probably coincidentally, just because it's a lot more convenient, you can plan ahead. So remains to be seen what that will mean for future cycles ahead.
Yeah, I want to talk about polls now. I mean, many of the major polls have Vice President Harris and former President Trump basically neck and neck in the battleground states, obviously indicating an extremely tight race. But is there one particular group of voters that you think highly favors one candidate over the other? And could that group make a difference in this race, do you think?
Yeah, there's been a lot of polling, of course, and if anyone wanted to read all of the polls, they could have a lot of fun trying to figure out which groups were behind which candidates. There's been certainly a lot of talk about male voters for Trump, or female voters and stay-at-home moms, wives, everything like that for Kamala Harris. Really, it's probably all about turnout. Turnout in this country is still around 50-60%. Which means both candidates run their campaigns trying to get out their vote as much as they can. We've really seen that over the last few weeks. It's less about trying to convince the undecided voters, and it's more about trying to convince your base, your supporters, to come out in higher numbers than your opponent.
Yeah, Geoff, let me ask you this question. I mean, do you think it's possible that the polling results aren't really truly indicative of this presidential race? I mean, that's something that we saw back in 2016 between Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump.
Yeah, I mean, the polls are certainly very close. It's closer than any time since 2000. The last election that was this close in the polls right before the election was in 2012. The Obama Romney campaign, it was zero point 0.7 was Obama's lead right up until the election. In 2004, Bush had a 1.5-point lead before the general election. So polls have been close before like this, but it's certainly going to be a really close race, and we'll see what happens.
Before I let you go, any final thoughts?
Yeah, so early voting is certainly up, and we'll have a lot of fun looking over the ballot measure results over the next few days. There's been more than $1 billion put into ballot measure campaigns this cycle, which is often a sort of undercovered part of the electoral process, and plays a really big part in sort of ginning up interest around the ballot. So we're very eager at Ballotpedia to see what happens with those ballot measures, and I'm sure we'll be back to talk more about that this week.
Yeah, Geoff, thank you so much for weighing in. We appreciate it.
Sure, thank you.